The historic Grand Canyon Lodge has been destroyed by wildfire. In Texas, dangerous weather has halted rescue and recovery efforts. And a tragic shooting in Kentucky. Plus today's trivia question, what U.S. president first designated the Grand Canyon a national monument? Well, I will tell you at the end of the show. It's Monday, July 14th. This is the Flyover Podcast. Welcome to the Flyover Podcast, taking you above the noise for an unbiased, high-altitude view of today's headlines with daily coverage that's honest and refreshing. Let's cruise the news and land the facts. Good morning and welcome to the Flyover Podcast. I am your weekday host, Ayla Brown, and I hope you had a great weekend. It's the start of a brand new work week, so let's take off with the biggest headlines of the day. First, the historic Grand Canyon Lodge on the North Rim has been destroyed by wildfire. Park officials say the Dragon Bravo fire, which began as a planned burn to clear brush, quickly got out of control last week. Hot, dry weather and strong winds helped it spread very fast, burning more than 5,000 acres. The visitor center, gas station, wastewater plant, and dozens of other buildings have also been lost. To make matters worse, a second wildfire that was started by lightning has exploded to over 19,000 acres near Jacob Lake. Both fires remain uncontained, and the entire north rim of the park is now closed. In Texas, dangerous weather is once again halting rescue efforts. Search teams looking for victims from the deadly July 4th floods were pulled out of the river areas Sunday morning after heavy rain triggered another round of flash flood warnings. Some parts of central Texas saw between 6 and 10 inches of rainfall, and river levels jumped nearly 30 inches overnight. More than 160 people are still unaccounted for, including a dozen from Camp Mystic. Officials say safety had to come first, with more storms moving in. And a tragic shooting unfolded Sunday in Lexington, Kentucky. 2 women were killed at Richmond Road Baptist Church after a suspect who had earlier shot and wounded a state trooper near the airport carjacked a vehicle and fled to the church. Authorities believe the victims may have been known to the shooter, but the motive is still under investigation. The suspect was later killed in a police standoff. Governor Andy Beshear praised the quick response from law enforcement as the investigation continues. Here are your top political headlines. Potential 2028 candidates are already working the early states. Some familiar names were spotted in South Carolina this week. California Governor Gavin Newsom, Kentucky Governor Andy Beshear, and Rep. Ro Khanna on the Democratic side, along with Republicans Glenn Youngkin and Rand Paul. South Carolina holds one of the earliest presidential primaries, so visits like these are an early sign that 2028 campaigning is already quietly underway. The White House may be eyeing the Fed. National Economic Council Director Kevin Hassett confirmed the Trump administration is reviewing whether it can remove Federal Reserve Chair Jerome Powell. The trigger, a $2.5 billion renovation of the Fed's D.C. headquarters that's now $700 million over budget. It's not clear whether Powell, whose term ends in 2026, can legally be removed by then. President Trump has been critical of Powell before, but this marks a more formal challenge. A Senate report released Sunday says the Secret Service, quote, denied or left unfulfilled at least 10 requests for added protection ahead of the July 2024 rally in Butler, Pennsylvania, where an attempted assassination narrowly missed President Trump. The report doesn't assign blame, but raises concerns about coordination failures between campaign staff and federal security. And finally, a passing of a bipartisan figure. David Gergen, a longtime potential advisor to 4 different administrations, Republican and Democrat, has died at the age of 83. Beyond the White House, he was a political analyst and top public leadership at Harvard's Kennedy School. His career spanned decades of Washington history and media commentary. Today's episode is powered by Fatty 15. Aging isn't just about getting older. It's about what's happening inside of our cells. So scientists now know that a lack of C15, which is an essential fatty acid newly discovered after 90 years, it can lead to something called cellular fragility syndrome. It affects your energy, your sleep, your joints, pretty much everything. Fatty 15 is here to change that because it's vegan, science-backed, and developed with help from the U.S. Navy. You can start feeling better in just weeks and get 15% off when you go to fatty15.com/flyover15. Don't forget to use that code flyover15 at checkout. Find all the information in the show notes below. Here are some bonus stories just for listeners of the Flyover podcast. The Department of Justice has dropped charges against Dr. Michael Kirk Moore, a Utah doctor accused of discarding $28,000 worth of COVID-19 vaccines and distributing nearly 2,000 fake vaccination cards. Moore, along with 3 associates, was indicted in January of 2023 for administering saline shots to children and selling fraudulent vaccination cards. Attorney General Pam Bondi announced the decision, calling Moore a hero who gave patients a choice when the government refused to. The case has sparked controversy, with GOP figures praising the decision while critics question the handling of that case. Next, a 20-year-old prisoner escaped from a prison in France by hiding in his cellmate's laundry bag as the cellmate was released after serving his sentence. The man, serving multiple sentences and under investigation for organized crime, exploited the situation, leading to an internal investigation. The prison service called the escape an extremely rare event, citing a series of security lapses. And lastly, a social media video has gone viral after a woman discovered her neighbor's dark blue fence paint had leaked into her garden, ruining her freshly painted shed. The incident sparked a debate on the unspoken rules of DIY projects, particularly when it comes to shared property like fences. Homeowners are obviously allowed to paint their own fences, but communication with neighbors is key, especially when the fence is on a boundary. If damage occurs, experts say it's best to address it calmly with the neighbor before seeking legal action. Hope that advice helped. And by the way, that is your podcast extra roundup. As always, I'll be giving you more exclusive content in tomorrow's show. Coming up, to those of you who send letters in the mail, I'm talking snail mail, there's been another price increase for those stamps. I'll tell you how much they cost in just a minute. In finance, let's talk about money, starting with a new car tax break. Tucked inside President Trump's big, beautiful bill is a new perk. Buyers can now deduct up to $10,000 in interest on loans for U.S.-assembled vehicles. It's aimed at boosting domestic auto sales and could be a win for both automakers and buyers. More details about the tax break can be found in the show notes below. Next, a letter, I'm sorry everyone, just got pricier. The U.S. Postal Service raised the price of a first-class stamp by 5 cents on July 13th as part of a broader 7.4% hike across mailing services as the USPS continues trying to cut losses. So now one forever stamp costs 78 cents, and the price for a postcard stamp also increased to 61 cents. And at the box office, DC's reboot is off to a super start. James Gunn's Superman brought in $122 million domestically and $217 million worldwide in its debut weekend, giving Warner Brothers a much-needed win in the superhero space. Have you seen it yet? Let me know in the comment section if you have and if it's good enough to see it in theaters, because I might just do that. Here's what's happening beyond our borders. We start with a growing global pressure around a potential conflict in the Pacific. The Pentagon is now asking close allies, Japan and Australia, to clarify what role they would play if the U.S. ends up in a war with China over Taiwan. It's been part of a broader push to tighten security cooperation as tensions continue rising in the region. More about this conflict can be found in the show notes below. Meanwhile, Europe is hitting pause on a potential trade fight. The European Union is delaying retaliatory tariffs on U.S. goods until August 1st, hoping to work out a deal after President Trump announced new 30% tariffs on imports from both the EU and Mexico. The delay gives negotiators a little breathing room, but talks are moving fast behind the scenes. And in Rome, Ukraine just locked in its biggest reconstruction pledge yet. At a global summit, 70 countries committed nearly $12 billion in aid to help Ukraine rebuild. The funds will go toward infrastructure, housing, and power systems, critical support as Russia's attacks continue. In sports, a new Wimbledon champ has been crowned. Italy's Yannick Sinner won his first Wimbledon title over the weekend, defeating Spain's Carlos Alcaraz in 4 sets. The 23-year-old not only earned his first Grand Slam trophy, he also snapped Alcaraz's 24-match winning streak. Sadly, all of the Americans lost their matches this weekend. And Aaron Judge just made MLB history. The Yankee slugger has become the fastest player ever to reach 250 career home runs. He did it in just 1,088 games, shattering Mark McGwire's previous record by nearly 200 games. It's another milestone for Judge, who already holds the American League's single-season home run record. Congrats to him. In science and technology, we're starting with a gadget that could lighten your backpack. A new carbon fiber camping pump is making waves for its size and its power. It weighs less than 1 ounce, runs for 45 minutes on a charge, and can fully inflate your gear in seconds. And the price tag, just under $43. So if you want a link to buy this cool gadget, you can find it in our show notes. Over in China, BYD is taking self-parking to a whole new level. The electric vehicle company now says its cars can autonomously park themselves, navigating through parking lots and backing into spaces without any human input. If the system makes a mistake, BYD says they'll just cover the damage. And yes, even dating has gone AI. A growing number of singles, about 1 in 4, are now using artificial intelligence to help craft the perfect message. Whether it's a dating app icebreaker or a clever reply on Instagram, AI tools are helping people get past that awkward, "what do I say?" moment. Have you ever done this? Or would you? Thank goodness I am no longer in the dating game, but I have used AI to help me craft up some emails to people. And coming up, attention to campers. If you are going camping soon, you're going to want to keep this specific item close by because foxes are on the hunt. And let's just say it's not for food, which is kind of weird. The answer is next. Let's wrap with a few stories that you might have missed, but definitely want to hear about. First, let's start in Hungary, where monks are in a race against time and bugs. At the 1,000-year-old Panahalma Arch Abbey, a beetle infestation is threatening the monastery's massive library. Officials say the drugstore beetle, yes, that's its name, has been chewing through the glue in book bindings, and so far, about a quarter of the Abbey's 400,000 books could be at risk. Meanwhile, in Wyoming, a new listing might be the dream house of the year if you have $34.5 million to spare. A glass and steel estate just hit the market in Jackson. It's got 35 acres, a panoramic view of the Grand Tetons, and an open floor plan, a gym, and even a pet spa. It's a high-end blend of luxury and wilderness. Check out the link in the show notes below. And while you're at the Tetons, wherever you're camping maybe, don't forget your footwear, or maybe just keep it close. Park rangers say foxes have now stolen at least 32 shoes from unsuspecting campers. Despite warnings, visitors are still leaving out food and maybe their sandals, hoping to spot a fox. The rangers' advice, though, watch the wildlife, but don't feed it, or you might just lose a hiking boot. Here's yesterday's poll question and the results. Which travel style suits you best? 36% said short road trips. 20% said other. 18% said relaxing cruises. Ooh. 15% said staycations at home. And lastly, 11% of you voted guided tour groups. Well, I will say I would not like a guided tour group. I don't think I could do that with a bunch of strangers for a long period of time. I'm going on a cruise for the first time in a long time coming up in November, so I'm very excited about that. But I will say, in general, short road trips are the way to go for my family and me because we have 2 young kids and a dog. So the shorter, the better. Thank you for voting on that, by the way. Here's today's poll question. Do you still send handwritten cards or notes for birthdays or holidays? Here's the different ways you can vote. Always, sometimes, rarely, or never. I'm going to vote sometimes because sometimes I do, depending on the person and the occasion. I should be better at it, but I have kind of too many things going on sometimes. The one person, though, who definitely gets a card every year is my husband because he deserves it. Here's the trivia question. What U.S. president first designated the Grand Canyon a national monument, famously declaring that, leave it as is, you cannot improve on it? It's a long trivia question, but the answer is not so long. That would be Theodore Roosevelt. In 1908, he used the Antiquities Act to designate it as a national monument, saying, leave it as is, you cannot improve on it, which I kind of agree with him on that. His move protected over 800,000 acres and helped pave the way for it to become a national park a decade later. Have you been to the Grand Canyon? I have once. It really was breathtaking. Maybe you're listening from that area. Maybe you're on a coast. No matter where, thank you for watching, for listening, and sharing, and starting your Monday just hanging out with me. I will see you tomorrow with more headlines. Until then, thank you for flying with us.